My name is Robert Nason. I'm an assistant professor of management at Concordia University. Yeah, so the paper was motivated by trying to understand what entrepreneurship looks like in a very different context than we typically examine. So in our case, we're looking at entrepreneurs in the bottom of the pyramid, or specifically for this study in impoverished slums in Hyderabad, India. And what we want to look at is what's influencing this entrepreneurial activity, how these entrepreneurs are operating. A lot of previous research has suggested that in this context, there's kind of no or weak formal institutions. So there's not much in terms of capital market development or political or regulatory institutions. And so then a lot of the emphasis has been on kind of building that infrastructure for developing economies. But we take a bit of a different approach by looking at the existing economic activity or entrepreneurial activity that's taking place there. And what are those kind of very rich and dynamic informal institutions that are having a powerful influence on how these entrepreneurs are acting and the performance of their businesses. And so we look at one of the most fundamental institutions, which is the family. And so in this context where there's not an abundance of resources, the family plays a critical role in providing resources, in kind of guiding and shaping the trajectory of these businesses. And so we wanted to kind of unpack that and look at that influence a little bit deeper. In particular, though, we rather than saying kind of the family is a monolithic actor or force that has a universally positive or negative influence on existing business activity, we want to tease out some dimensions along which families are different. And so in this case, we look at household diversity in terms of the diversity of the individuals living in the household in terms of their age, sex, industry experience, as well as education level. That's one. And then the other we look at is in terms of their shared business experience. So how much is there an overlap between the industry experience of the household members and the focal business, and how many entrepreneurs are in the household that will have kind of particularly insightful or relevant resources for that focal business. The way in which we found the data was that it was data collected by the development economists that have really rich databases. They're looking at more macro issues of does microfinance work and that kind of thing. And we wanted to look more on the household and firm level. So we're asking different questions. But we found this data set that was collected in 100 slums in Hyderabad, India. And in these slums, households were randomly selected, and detailed questions were asked to the person, the woman in the household primarily responsible for household finances. And she answered detailed questions about every single person in the household. So what's their age, education level, lots of questions about the household finances and activities, and then if they had a business or not. And if they had a business, there was questions around the performance of that business. And so it gave kind of really rich insight. There's about 6,000 households. We narrowed it down to only looking at those that had businesses for this study, which is about 1,300. And so it gave us a nice way to look at the kind of family level household information and link it with the businesses that are operating inside of that household. Sometimes it's just one. In a few cases, there were multiple businesses in the same household. What we found in analyzing the data was that, and what we argued theoretically, is that a little bit of diversity, household diversity, is a good thing. That in this context, you need creativity in order to stimulate performance. You can't rely on kind of valuable or these abundant use of resources. And so you need creativity to make the best out of the resources that you have at hand. So a little bit of creativity comes with more household diversity. So you have different perspectives that allow you new insights and new ways to think of using resources. However, what we suggest and kind of draw attention to is that unfettered creativity can also be detrimental, that you can have too much diversity, which will lead to kind of perhaps too many voices, and can even lead to relational or emotional conflict within the family, and this can be detrimental. So a little bit of diversity is good. Too much diversity is bad, and so the optimal level for performance is household diversity at a moderate level. What we found in terms of shared business experience is that also a little bit of shared business experience is good. That there are benefits to kind of household economies of learning. As you have more individuals that participate in the same industry, they can add particularly relevant insights. And same with business owners. If you have more business owners, they've gone through the process, they understand the problems and challenges with operating a business and can share that with other household members that own businesses. But there's also, again, a danger of too much shared business experience within the household, that you can get trapped in kind of too narrowly minded, focused only on an industry without seeing insights from other perspectives. And that can lead to a kind of a competence trap or too narrow of a focus. So again, we find this inverted U-shaped relationship between shared business experience and the performance of businesses in these households. So the implications of our research is first to, start to shed some insights on what's impacting the performance of businesses and entrepreneurs operating at the base of the pyramid, and showing that the family matters a lot. It's not just about the individual business, industry, or context, but what's the larger family dynamics and influences at play. I think that's important for local entrepreneurs to know and understand. It's also important for those kind of outside actors that are attempting to help and stimulate entrepreneurship in these developing economies. For instance, one of the insights is it's not just about giving money or productive assets, which a lot of microfinance has been focused on, but maybe more on training and training in terms of how to deal with family dynamics. That they can be very diverse family households. And they may not be well equipped in these to handle the stresses of emotional conflict and that kind of thing that spills over inevitably into the business. And for that reason, I think highlighting training on the family level, training in terms of differentiating skills and things that individuals can pursue is something that microfinance and NGOs can bring to this context as well. So those would be the main takeaways. Certainly we need future research to kind of generalize from our particular study. I think that the influence of the family on household, that kind of overlap and the embeddedness of the family is particularly salient in this context. But it is something that you see across all kinds of businesses. And I think what's rather remarkable is that family businesses are incredibly diverse, from the corner bakery to the largest, some of the largest financial institutions to poor rickshaw operators like in our sample. And despite this diversity, they have a kind of remarkable commonality in terms of issues and challenges they face, and some of them related to these family dynamics, which for sure spill over from the family into the business and influence the business performance and a lot of the activities that the businesses undertake. So I think there with some caution in kind of generalizing too much, but certainly there are it's something that's applicable to family businesses across the globe.